Welcome everyone to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Dalton Ross of Entertainment Weekly Magazine and EW Live on Sirius XM, and I'm super pumped to be with you here today. Before we get going, real quick, I want to let everyone know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA artists with basic needs like rent, food, and healthcare costs during this global pandemic and industry shutdown. Donations are 100% tax deductible and directly support performers in dire need. Information on how you can support this effort can be found in the description of this video. So please go check that out. All right. In my position at EW, I get a lot of screeners sent my way. And it was after watching one particular screener for the pilot of a new show that I opened my mouth and I loudly exclaimed, "What the hell was that?" Because it was audacious. It was crazy. And it blew up a big ship with 90% of the characters on it before we even met them. So needless to say, I was all in. That show was Raised by Wolves, a series that continued to floor me all season long with its sci-fi storytelling, paired with some incredible performances by actors that had to operate under some very unique circumstances. I am very excited to be joined by those actors and storytellers right now. And it is my pleasure to introduce Travis Fimmel, Abubakar, Salim, Amanda Collin, Niamh, Algar, and showrunner Aaron Guzikowski. Hey everyone, how's it going?
Hey Dalton, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here, having just watched the finale. You know, Abu, nobody on this damn show seems to appreciate father's jokes. So I want to give you the floor here. All right, I want to give you all the time you want. All right, no orchestra is going to play you off.
Right.
I'm just gonna let you kick this thing off with your favorite joke.
My favorite joke?
Nobody's going to judge you. Just let it rip and hit us with your best shot.
My favorite joke is Travis Fimmel.
That's a good one.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. Hey-o. That's very good.
But before we go any further, I want to offer a big spoiler warning. We're going to be discussing things, obviously, that happened in the first season and the finale of Raised by Wolves, which you all just saw, hopefully. So be prepared if for some reason you didn't see it, that's coming up. The show was recently renewed for season 2. Congratulations, everyone. And great news.
Thank you.
It's out there. And Aaron, before we get into everything else, we just in the finale saw a lot of stuff go down.
Yes.
I know you're not going to say a lot, but what sort of teases coming off of the finale can you give us in terms of where this is all going to lead and what we're going to see in season 2?
Well, I think the one thing I can tell you, and you do see a glimpse of it in the finale, is that there are going to be some new arrivals coming for season 2. Some new refugees from what was left of Earth have now arrived here, and that would be the Atheist Army. So we're going to start to see sort of a little bit from the other perspective of that conflict as it now is visited upon our new planet here.
I'm excited to see where that all heads, and I want to head now back to the beginning. Travis, I spoke with Aaron about this on my radio show and alluded to it there in the intro, that the first episode of Raised by Wolves is one of the most bonkers things I've ever seen, because it burns through like 3 seasons of story in one freaking episode. I'm curious what your initial reaction was when you read the script, because, you know, there's no half a season of setting the stage. It's just like, boom. So what was your reaction when you first read that?
Oh, it's such an interesting script, and I really enjoyed the settlement and the robots interactions there with the kids. I thought it was amazing.
What about anyone else when you read the Niamh? What was it like for you when you first read that script?
It was unlike anything that I'd kind of read before, especially where you have the main protagonists of 2 androids and how they almost come across as being more human than any of the other humans within the script. I thought like Aaron and the way he portrays that was really unique.
There's so many, I'm really happy to have you 4 on here, the actors, because there's so many acting challenges for you all in this show that I want to get into. I do want to start with our resident androids here, because Ridley Scott directed the first 2 episodes, and that man has given us some of the most famous androids ever, like, you know, from Blade Runner and Alien and Prometheus. So the guy's got a little experience. Amanda and Abu, I'm curious what sort of advice he gave you on playing a very human-like robot. Amanda, we'll start with you. What was that like, sort of finding that character of Ridley?
Well, as anything, it was a process, I think, to just jump in both feet and then see how much it could handle of humanity. I think we had like a scale. We talked a lot about cadence between Abu and I. That was a word that was used a lot. And then I think with the suits came a lot of the android look and also contact lenses and stuff like that. So we looked very androidy, and that way we were able to maybe play a little bit more human. But it was always, I feel, Ridley's call, and sometimes we would also ask, like, is this too human? Can I do like this? And then he would say no. For instance, that's just an example.
Yeah, I mean, like, just kind of coming off of that, he kind of gave us a lot of freedom in regards to actually exploring the characters. You know, he'd set us off, of course, with the idea of cadence, and you know, not necessarily where we came from, but it was his directorial input or his direction really kind of made us. It gave us a lot of freedom to play and discover the characters for ourselves. And yeah, as Amanda said, like the suits definitely helped in regards to keeping posture and composure and all that sort of stuff. But like it was really, really he was brilliant at making you think like it was your idea, but then ultimately you kind of know that it was him who was directing you.
But I think also it was brilliant. I mean, we have to thank Aaron for actually being characters who wake up in the first scene. Like, when are you ever, as a grown-up character, born in scene one? You know, that was such a gift. So there was no wrong. Like, there's nothing. There wasn't a box we had to fill out. We kind of just made it up as we went along.
It's interesting to hear you talk about the importance of the suits helping you get in character, because I mean, I look at that and my first thought is, that seems like a bathroom nightmare, like in between takes. Like I don't know how they're managing that situation, especially if they're trying to stay hydrated out on location. But that seems like a problem.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting peeing every now and then. It was beautiful. It was an incredible experience I will never forget. So thank you, Janty and Ridley. But yeah, no, it was definitely an interesting choice. But at the same time, like it really aided. People were looking at you weirdly, like on, you know, like as you were working on set, like on and off camera. So it kind of helped. It was weird. It was like a weird sort of curse, but at the same time, really lovely. Yeah. You
became really close with the people who dressed us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, really close.
Like so close. Yeah. Shout out to like Terrence, man, and having to deal with all sorts of different wardrobe malfunctions with that suit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I find it interesting, Abu, in the final episode, especially because, you know, as you're trying to calibrate how a android would react to things and how much reaction he's gonna have. What was it like in the finale by having to recalibrate that, whereas we see Father experience emotions and actually show things like jealousy and anger and love. So your character's feeling these things, yet also almost studying these very curious emotions in a very analytical way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mainly took like my sort of inspiration of jealousy from Travis because he was so jealous of my acting skills. So I actually applied that to the work that I was doing. No, but no, it was actually really, again, as Amanda said to begin with, we were starting from day dot, right? And like the fact is we got to explore these emotions in such an intense level that, you know, the idea is like, what does jealousy like feel like for the first time? What does anger feel like for the first time? And that's a gift because, you know, we're coming at it so fresh. And I think, you know, with Father's journey as well, with this idea of being like, I've got a job to do, I've got to take care of Mother no matter what. And then when I'm now confronted with this feeling of like, oh, I care about Mother, but I don't at the same time because she cheated on me. Did she cheat on me? It's all these weird things that, you know, I have the space to really feel that and really kind of think that. And it just happens again. The writing also helped. I mean, like in regards to sort of playing that journey and speaking aloud. So Yeah, it was such a blessing to play because it is so raw, and you rarely get something where you get to play something so raw.
And Aaron, you talked about the writing. Obviously, you're trying to figure out how far to calibrate as well. So just talking about the process of how far you can sort of send these, robotic forms into that emotional realm.
Yeah, I think you have to be careful, but I think in some ways, like they said, we're very much starting at the beginning. We saw kind of what their baseline was. Obviously they were designed to make faces for their kids, manifest, showing these kind of phony emotions was part of their original program. But then as time went on, the kids started to influence them and they started to feel things that weren't part of the program. And I think, trying to be really methodical in terms of how that happened, and over how much time, and really, being very careful about how it manifests, in the story now. Just being very, actually kind of treating it almost as an android would, being very analytical about, when these emotions are coming and going, and trying to map it all out in a way that feels, that feels real.
I told Aaron how after I watched the premiere, I needed to just decompress for a little bit before I watched the second episode because there's so much to take in. And Travis and Niamh, it's kind of what I love about it is then we have almost like a reboot in a sense with episode 2, where then we go back to your origin stories and see where you guys came from. Travis, starting with you, just tell me, what was it like to be able to work with Ridley, and what was it like to be able to find this character who's in one place and is very quickly going to move someplace else?
Yeah, it was all sort of learning on the move there. We didn't know much about the history of I didn't know much about the history of the character or anything, and sort of learning while you're reading the scripts. But I like the flashbacks. We had some amazing sets in the flashbacks, and it was great to be working in Cape Town doing that. And Niamh will answer this brilliantly. Niamh.
Which part?
Well, first off, tell me what it was like. First off, tell me what it was like working with Ridley, and sort of as you're sort of laying down the groundwork for this character.
Well, Ridley is really hands off. He creates the set, he creates the world for the actors to just literally, dig their teeth into. And with the Marcus and Sue characters, they are essentially refugees, but they're survivors. So they're going to do everything in order to survive. So there is that ruthless, I suppose there is a quite ruthless gene within them. And for them on Earth, they go from these people who are like hardcore atheists to becoming Mithraic, and they're struggling. Well, I find like with Sue, she's struggling incredibly with the identity and what it means now that she's choosing to be this, Mithraic figure and have this little boy that she didn't think that was ever going to be possible to obtain, and lying to him and knowing that you have this massive secret that you've killed their parents is like there was all these layers that Aaron had sewn into the script that as an actor it's a joy to be able to work with, because it's deciding when and which point you're going to be able to show that, and I think that's like with to be able to work with that is amazing.
Well, yeah, it is interesting because, like, I talked to Amanda and Abu about playing sort of the androids, which is a trick. But you and Travis have a trick too, in that you're playing people playing other people. Yeah. So you have to play Mary pretending to be Sue. So how much did you have to figure that whole puzzle out, or as an actor was it actually pretty relatable to get a handle on someone pretending to be someone else?
Yeah, there's definitely elements of that, but I suppose the fun part is that you were able to create. For me, I was able to create Mary and then hide that. And that was what was really fun, to be able to like literally put on a brand new mask and then have this other identity set upon you. And for her, for them especially, they're trying to learn about the Mithraic culture through their son, which is not even their son. So it's almost like there's similarities between them and the androids that are trying to learn about human emotions through the people around them. And they're trying to do the same. I think for a long time, I think the Mary and Sue character were quite numb to feel kind of any of these emotions, because they've spent the last God knows how long hiding all that in order to survive, especially when Earth's depleted all its natural resources, and when you're going to do anything in order to kind of get away from that.
Do you think, I don't know, new Sue or Sue number 2 or whatever you want to call her, do you think she's surprised at how maternal she eventually becomes with Paul?
Yeah, well, I guess this is not a spoiler, but like Sue was never going to be able to have kids. So suddenly she doesn't believe in a God, but suddenly this kid is almost gifted to her. And for her, she begins to question faith, and almost like for her, Paul is almost like a God to her, because it's getting something that you never thought was ever going to be imaginable. And so I think there's spiritual elements towards that, but it's like at the start of it, there's that line, and it's like that Saul tests us, and to write the entire story, all these characters are constantly being tested.
Speaking of faith, Travis, right around episode 8, I started getting almost like a Jack Torrance Shining vibe in terms of what was happening to Marcus as he started to go a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. How did you come to grips with like how to portray what eventually seems like almost like a descent into madness? Because I imagine there are a lot of different ways you could have approached that to get that across. Just tell me about finding it.
I just played heartbroken a lot in my Just Confused and Heartbroken. I really don't know what's going on or what's going to happen to my character. So I sort of ended up playing just desperate to try to find the meaning of what is alive for, you know? Why is he trying so hard to survive, and trying to find that meaning, is it worth surviving, you know? Because I'm in the dark as much as the audience about it. I'm not sure what the future holds for Marcus, or, you know.
But clearly something's like in him now, and he has this belief that he is the chosen one, and he sort of gets this Messiah complex. And I mean, I imagine that was pretty fun, but also maybe, I don't know, maybe not difficult to play.
I don't know, mate. I just tried my best.
Okay. Well, I think the best was good enough. I think the best worked. Usually that's a good operating procedure. I'll just give my best this time.
I'm telling you, it was the jealousy for me. It's okay though. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
I love what's going on here, by the way. I love it. This is the show.
True bromance.
Spin-off.
That's what's going to happen in season 2, really.
Oh, yeah, right.
Father and Marcus hitting it off.
Marcus, yeah, actually, yeah.
For sure.
I'm sensing like a road trip buddy comedy, you know what I mean? Something like that. Like,
That would
me and
be
my
good.
android, you know, like one of those posters like, this guy.
Ever seen Brokeback Mountain in the future? You're about to have it. I'm just saying.
Another thing I like about the show is there's a lot of, you know, practical effects. It feels real, but obviously there's some time where there has to be CGI involved. Which brings us to Mother's super disturbing snake baby birth scene. Amanda, first off, just tell me about having to do all that convulsing as you're in what we're going to call labor. I'm worried you're going to throw your back out. And then you're having to react to this giant serpent coming out of your mouth, which I don't know what they were holding there as a visual point or what, but just tell me everything about that scene.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a cross on the wall. So, yep. I mean, what can I say? It was an intense day. But I really think it works. And I'm so proud of that scene. And to be honest, it was also the ending of the season, and we were all so like cross-eyed from just, you know, ending it all. And I think that was really good, because I was really tired and just went into it and did what I had to do. I did, though, I remember Luke directed episode 10, and I remember I had more conversations with him about like trying to make stuff physical and not seeing my face so much to try to get out of the emotional stuff that I had to go through. Be like, what if, Luke, we made this just like I just bend forward and then and then you shoot me from the back. And he was like, yeah, no, I think we wanted to see your face. I was like, okay, great, good stuff. See you in 5. So, yeah.
Did they give you any sort of visual of what was actually going to be coming out with you? Did they have like pictures or storyboards or anything, or they? Just
Yeah. Everything was storyboarded, and we had lots of talks about it. I have to say, I watched it the other day, and I was also screaming with excitement, because it's really hard to imagine before you see the actual result, it's just really hard to imagine. And the last time I saw this scene was in ADR, where I had to do a lot of noises, and and it didn't look as good when I did ADR. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be bad. But it looks amazing.
Oh, yeah. In the end. I mean, it's a super memorable scene, and I actually want to go around the Zoom here and ask everyone about the most memorable scene they felt they shot from this season. And that can mean memorable, can mean anything in terms of something going incredibly right, or something going horribly comically wrong, or something really funny happening, or just working through an issue to really nail a take. Just sort of when you look back on this first season and the work you did, I want to hear about each of your most memorable scenes. And that includes you too, Aaron, because I'm sure you had a bunch of scenes that you were really either worried about or so excited about. In fact, we'll start with you, Aaron. What for you is the one scene that stands out?
Well, I don't know. I guess it would probably be, and maybe it would be the same for Amanda, maybe not, I don't know. But the arc scene, the blood, what I call 2001 in The Shining, having a baby, basically is I love that. And what made it so memorable was, I remember that Amanda, at some point, it was so slippery from all the blood, it would be almost impossible for her to walk down that hallway, and how tense it was, just like, please, don't fall. And just the insanity of it all, and the real blood, these exploding bags of blood that Ridley had set up, and just it was just so full bore, across the board. So.
Yeah.
So what a day! What a day! I've never felt.
Yeah, that was intense.
So giddy. Yeah, it was.
And everyone felt it on set, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is looking good." And then I remember we had to do one where I had to walk down, and look like really, and the doors open, and they say, "Rare," and I take one step, and I'm like, like that, and they're like, "Cut." Yeah, that was a fine moment.
Yeah. That fake blood is slippery stuff. Slippery stuff.
Since Aaron may have just stolen Amanda's scene, we'll give her a minute to come up with a backup. We'll go to Abu. Abu, what's your most memorable scene?
Yeah. I mean, probably it would have to be where the first time me and Mother argue, because I remember doing that scene. That was actually one of the audition scenes. I think it's in Ep 1, just before she literally murders me. Yeah, it was. I remember doing that several times, auditioning. That scene as an audition tape, and then being in the moment and actually doing it was quite surreal, because it's like, oh wow, this is actually happening now, and that to me really kind of stuck with me, because it was very much it was very clear, like it was almost like I've been dreaming of that moment, doing all these tapes and thinking, is this going to happen? And then suddenly I'm in the space and doing it. And it just, yeah, I'd say that was a really memorable scene for me, simply just because of the context behind it and everything.
You're making Amanda emotional. I see it. She's getting.
I remember that scene of Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and I think it was like the first time as well, like there was some sort of physical altercation between us, and it was like, are we okay to, like, is it all right if I touch you? Like, we're getting to know each other as actors, right? So we're like this, and then by the end of episode 10, we're like, okay, I'm just gonna lean into you here and I'm gonna fart in your face. Is that cool? Like, it was just like, we generally were so kind of cool and relaxed with each other by the end of it all. So yeah, it was really, that scene really kind of set everything, I think, for me in regards to the actual experience for the show, both, story-wise, but as well as just like as an actor.
I mean, you had so many death scenes to choose from. I want but when this show's all said and done, I want Aaron to make a supercut of just all of Father's rebooting, resetting, killing, bringing back to life.
Absolutely.
Let's go over to Travis. Travis, what's sort of one scene that sticks out for you from the first season?
There's not one particular scene. I was just blown away by the sets, and just the first day, I guess, working with Ridley Scott and being on an amazing location and amazing sets, and excited about to hear what Ridley was going to tell me, and Ridley never said nothing to me the whole scene. So it was great. It's just great to be on set with Ridley. It was a great experience.
Do you prefer being like out on location, out in the elements, or you prefer that? Yeah.
Yeah, we shot in Cape Town. It's beautiful locations, beautiful scenery, and yeah, it's one of the perks of the jobs to me, that and the free food.
Yeah, that's so bad either. Niamh, what's your most memorable scene?
It was probably one of Sue's last scenes in episode 10 when Paul shoots her. Because it's just like it's the biggest moment of betrayal that she feels towards Paul, and everything that character had kind of built in trust and towards love towards him is just completely shattered in that moment. And it was quite an emotional day, and Felix Jameson, the actor who plays Paul, is just, he's unbelievable. In fact, all the kids are incredible. So yeah, you feel like you're going toe to toe with like a 45-year-old seasoned actor, and he's like 11. And yeah, it's quite terrifying to think that a child could do something, you know, with so much hatred towards someone that they're meant to have loved. And you know, it's their whole world just kind of comes crashing down in that moment. It was quite an emotional day, because I think it was like one of my last days on set.
Before we get to Amanda's scene, you bring up an interesting point in that, you know, a lot of kids on this set. I imagine that has to give it a little bit of a different energy, especially, you know, Abu and Amanda are working with the kids the most, I guess. What's sort of the energy of having all those little scamps running around?
The kids were probably the most professional people on set, to be honest. And they don't, you know, the minute, I don't know, for kids, it's like the minute the director calls cut, they don't carry anything kind of offset. It's like, all right, here, can we get back to playing like a game of poker? Or they just want to play. So you need to leave everything on set. They're not like adults where they're like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I really felt it. And the best thing about kids is like, they will tell you if they believe it or not. So yeah, they're like the best acting
very
coach.
honest.
They're very honest.
Yeah. Abu and Amanda, what was it like for you working with all the kids on set?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an experience. Like, it was great. It was good. I mean, like, again, like what Niamh was saying, like they're incredibly intelligent and really, really like reactionary. You almost, you know, as an older actor, you almost want to kind of get that imagination and feeling of play that they had again, and kind of capture it and use it, because they don't really, they're just honest. They just do, you know, they just do, and they just go. And I think it was great. But there were just definitely moments where, you know, you'd be preparing for like a deep scene, and then you've got like Winter being like, so would you rather fight like a zombie dragon or like a real dragon? And it's like, mate, I'm like trying to process that I'm about to die now. He's like, no, but like zombie dragons are really, really cool, right? And you can actually kill them. And it's like, oh my God. So yeah, so they're great.
Not wrong, by the way, not wrong. Amanda, what was it like for you?
No, but that exactly what Abu says. It lives the whole vibe, I think, on set, just having them there. And also, I mean, 3 of them are not kids. You know, they're actually grown-ups as well.
TV kids.
So, TV kids, yeah.
So Amanda, what's your most memorable scene? We already took up your birth scene, and then Aaron took your backup to that. So now you got to go to your third pick.
Yeah, I think, well, I have to mention a scene in episode 6 that I'm pretty excited about. I think doing a sex scene in a show like this, always like, I'm doing what? And you kind of take a close look at them storyboards. And then I was like, with my husband, I was like, well, if you gotta make a sex scene in Hollywood, you better make it fucking epic. Oh, sorry. And then, and I think it turned out pretty epic. I mean, I can definitely never make a sex scene in a bed again after doing it flying. So that's it for me having sex on screen. Thank you, Aaron.
Absolutely.
I've always said I don't think I could in fact, I know I could never be an actor for many reasons, but one is which I couldn't handle the casting process. Abu, I heard you mentioned it earlier, I was on my audition reel or whatever, and the casting process, all that auditioning, all that rejection, I'm just not cut out for it. And it's really amazing what all actors have to go through just to land a single role. I'd love it if each of you could share a casting story from your career with us, if you have one. Again, it could be a nightmare audition scenario where everything goes comically bad, or the one time you were convinced you had no shot, but you actually landed the part. Just anything that comes to mind, because I think it's obviously very relatable to everyone in your field, a lot of who are watching right now. Travis, we'll start with you. Do you have a casting story you can share with us?
I'm a horrific auditioner. Can't do it. I always get a job off, well, if I ever get a job, it's off putting myself on tape. But I've walked out on auditions or I get halfway through and it's like, I'm not going to get this job. I'm going to go, thanks, sorry to waste your time. And I get so nervous and just don't want to be there and intimidated by wasting people's time. And yeah, I can't talk in front of people. I'm horrible. Abu's got a good story. Tell him that one, Abu.
What story? Okay, I'm got a story, but I genuinely, I think for me it's a weird one because whenever I approach auditions or sort of scripts, actually even like with this one, you know, I remember reading the script and thinking to myself like, how the hell am I going to get this right? Because it's like a lead in quite a massive show, or like, you know, playing like this big character. And a lot of the time, I think I'm used to the idea of seeing like, you know, I don't know, freaking like Brad Pitt or like, you know, whatever in these kind of like crazy cool like roles in which are almost, you know, I'm used to the idea.
He was up for like, father, but he didn't get it.
I know. But like, you know, I think it's like with. I mean, I don't want to bring it into race, but the idea is, I think as black actors, you're very used to the idea of playing like this sort of the supporting role. So all the time, actually, when it comes to even auditioning, sometimes you do have that sort of log in the back of your head that you've got to fight that and you've got to try and get over that. And I think, yeah, now, anyway, times are changing. You know, we're seeing a lot more sort of diversity on screen, but there is that feeling of that you're always sort of having to sort of wrestle with. So, yeah, I'd say like, rather than have a horrible audition story, because I don't really have many. I mean, most of the time, if I did, it's either because they were trying to, I don't know, cast me as something terrible, and I've been like, this is bullshit. But most of the time, it's always been that battle of like, okay, how do I make them not see me? How do I make them not see the color of my skin first before I do something? And yeah, I'd say, wow, that got really deep. Shit, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
It was good. I mean, Niamh, tell me what the casting process has been like for you. Do you get really, you know, nervous and uncomfortable like Travis is talking about? Do you have other things that you feel you have to deal with and when you go through the process?
I really enjoy auditioning. I think it's because you get the excuse to just act for the day, because a lot of the time, I don't know, between jobs, you're not exactly acting. So I really enjoy auditioning, especially doing self-tapes. I get quite creative with my self-tapes. I once did like a short film in order to like made a short film. I got my friend to shoot it and we turned the whole house, like we put in like Atmos and everything and set off fire alarms and everything. Got the job, but also nearly burnt down the building at the same time. And then for this one, Kate Rowe James, who cast it, it was quite an unusual, not unusual, but I never met Ridley. I only met him, we talked on the phone before we shot. So I was like on an island shooting a thing with Brian Cox, and I was trying to get Brian to help me learn the lines so I could get him to tape with me later. And he was like, no, I think you really need to get like a woman to do this with you. And I was like, but it's a man's part. Like it's a guy. And yeah, so he eventually kind of helped me with the audition tape, which was quite unusual to get Brian Cox on the end. Because they'd be like, yeah, she's grand, but who is she reading with? Because he's got an amazing voice.
He sounds amazing.
You're telling him, be good, but not too good. Like, be Brian Cox, not Brian Cox.
Just tone it down a bit, all right?
That's great. Amanda, what's the process like for you?
Oh, it's very different, but I think the more relaxed you can be, the better, right? So I have definitely had my fair share of uptight, anxious castings, but I think this one was standing out because I was on a festival with the actual casting director, which is like, I would highly recommend to anyone because she introduced me to the project. We had a glass of wine, maybe a Guinness, you know, and I went into the room the day after and I was like, hi, Kate. So, and you never walk into a casting situation like that. You know, it's, you always like filled up with like fear and anxiety. But then this one, it was just like, hey, how you doing? Oh, fantastic. And that was like my luck, really, because I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for Kate.
Aaron, just from your perspective, if you could talk about what it was like casting these fine folks, looking at you, staring at you right now as you talk about them, and also just sort of for all the other people watching, the other actors watching, can you quantify at all what you look for when you go through casting videos?
I don't know. For me, it's when I write characters, I mean, I usually have some kind of, at least kind of their, how they feel, kind of this blurry picture in my mind. And I just watch audition tapes and eventually someone just makes the picture come into focus, you know, and I can never really tell exactly what it is, but they just capture something that, something in my mind, it just triggers and you're like, yes, that's exactly what this actor needs to have in order to make this feel real. And but it's very just kind of instinctual. It's kind of, you don't know it till you see it, and so it can be very stressful because you won't see it for a while and you might never see it. So that's the I guess that's the fear there. But here we were so lucky. I mean, really, I mean, it was hard to find these guys, and really, but once we did, it was such a lucky, happy day for me.
Yeah. Well, it seems to have all worked out. So listen, season 1's over. Guys, how much has Aaron told you about what's coming up in season 2?
Like
nothing?
Absolutely nothing. That's everything. What did you give him? Generally I have no idea.
A few cryptic messages. That's about
it. How does that usually work? Will you give them, like, before you guys start filming season 2, will you give them all the beat points, or sort of just a rough outline, or how much information do you dispense?
I think this season I think each character will probably know a fair amount of what happens to them in their world, more or less, you know, probably a lot more so than they knew last season, which was almost nothing, mostly by design, but partly by necessity. But yes, this year, at least for their characters, and because the nature of the show, even if you kind of know where your character's going, if you don't know the larger context, you're still you're not really going to fully understand what it all means. But you'll have enough to, I think, feel comfortable about, you know, have some notion of what you're about to be getting into, so you can prepare.
There are so many scenes in episode, like in season 1, where I'm like, oh, that's what it's about. Wow, wow, that's great.
Well, I find the show fascinating. I love the fact of, like, you know, basically leaving one planet for another, but bringing all your problems with you to the new planet, and how much has changed. It's great stuff. I love season 1, and I appreciate you guys spending all your time chatting about it with us. The performances are extraordinary, and the writing to go with it. It's just a perfect combination. Listen, I want to thank our virtual audience for watching. And on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I want to thank our esteemed panel of Travis Fimmel, Abu Salim, Amanda Collin, Niamh, Algar, and Aaron Guzikowski for joining us and sharing your experiences, process, craft with your fellow artists. It's been an absolute blast. We'll have to do it all over again once Amanda goes and decides to blow up another arc. Does that sound good, everyone?
Am I blowing up another arc?
Yeah.
No.
Aaron didn't tell you that yet. There's another arc. It's right there. All right. It's a day. Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye bye.